All right. What's happening, everybody? Welcome to Gonzo and the Judge Sports Talk Wednesday night, December 28th, 2022. Man, been a good night in sports tonight, man. Some good college football bowl games tonight. Got another good one right now with North Carolina and Oregon in the fourth quarter. There's been some good games. Been joined by the sports judge, Jonathan Mathis. How's it going, Judge?
What's up, man? What's going on? Yes, happy Wednesday to you. It is the final Wednesday of 2022 as we will be bringing in the new year very soon. And once again, happy Wednesday. As you guys can see on my shirt, it's Wednesday. It is Wednesday. Let's do our thing. Let's have a lot of fun. We got a lot to talk about tonight, Chris. It's going to be great. And I'm glad that Stat Guy has joined in on all the fun. This should be a very good show. Uh, let's do what we do best over here and let's talk sports. And thanks to all our viewers out there for joining us as well. Honestly, Chris, I have not been following much of these bowl games. I'm over it. I don't get into these bowl games because I just think there's too many. There's too much to keep up with, and I've just never really gotten into them like that. Now I will be tuned in, and my eyes will be glued to the TV when the playoffs start.
Yeah, man, there's been some good games today. Kansas and Arkansas was real good. Went into three overtimes. Now you got Oregon and North Carolina 24-21. North Carolina with like 5 minutes left in the game. So I mean, there's been some good games today. But also joined by the stat guy. How's it going, Dustin?
Not bad, guys. Figured I'd pop in for a little bit tonight while I'm at work.
Oh. You've been watching any of these college bowl games?
Not really. Not for the same reasons Jonathan hasn't been watching him. I've just been extremely busy. I mean, I catch highlights here and there, but I really haven't sat down and watched an entire game start to finish. I probably will this weekend with the TCU, Michigan, and then Ohio State, Georgia games.
Yeah. The games they've been real good, and I'll tell you what, this Drake May, he's gonna be good. Some of the throws he's made tonight in this game for only being a freshman is pretty crazy. But what do you guys think about Derek Carr getting benched for the last two games of the season? And not only that, they're basically have, like removed him from. They're keeping him away from the team because they're afraid he's going to be a distraction. But there has to be something going on behind the scenes, I would say, because I mean, on the outside, it don't seem like Derek Carr's a distraction. And where they are the Raiders done with Carr, and where's Carr going to end up? It's going to be interesting.
I think this is a sign that the Raiders are ready to move on from Derek Carr. I think we might have seen the end to what has been a dark chapter. I think the end of the Derek Carr era has officially come to an end, and you know it sucks that it's going to end this way for Derek Carr. Derek Carr had his worst season in a Raiders uniform, and his buddy came to join him this season, and he still looked pretty bad. It was an awful campaign for him. I'm pretty sure it's one he wants to forget about. And I joked a little bit about this earlier. I posted a meme. I don't know if you guys seen it. It blew up on TikTok or whatever. But in all seriousness, it just didn't work out for Derek Carr like most people thought it would from the start of the season. It's been a disappointing year. But does all of this fall on Derek Carr? Would it be fair to place all the blame on Derek Carr when you have a guy who is clueless in Josh McDaniels, a guy who's not that great of a coach, who has proved once before that he's not, head coaching material? Did he put him in the best position to succeed as a quarterback? So I know that there's got to be a fall guy, and Derek Carr obviously looks like the fall guy. This is a guy who's been through so many rebuilds. He's been through countless rebuilds. He's been through countless coaches. He had to, learn a new playbook. He had to learn a new system each time. And it's hard to try to gain knowledge of a new playbook in such a short time. So all of that can be factored into why Derek Carr also performed the way he did this season and didn't live up to his own standards, nor did he live up to the standards of the Vegas Raiders as well. You're muted.
What do you think about the Derek Carr situation, stat guy?
I mean, given the circumstances where the Raiders are right now, I think this is the telling sign that Derek Carr is done in Vegas. I'm not going to be surprised to see him end up in Indianapolis next year. I'm not going to be surprised to see him end up in Minnesota, because there was talk a couple of years ago that Minnesota was going to try to trade for Derek Carr as opposed to extending Kirk Cousins, and they eventually extended Kirk Cousins, so that'll be kind of a move to watch this offseason. But the other curious note about this is Jared Stidham is taking over. Jared Stidham was in New England last year with Josh McDaniels. So you got to think that Josh McDaniels believes in Jared Stidham enough to not only bring him from New England to Las Vegas, but now to give him basically these final 2 starts of the year to maybe audition for the starting job in Vegas next year, if that's the direction that Josh McDaniels wants to go, because I think the Raiders are about to enter a full-blown rebuild mode.
Yeah, I think it came down to he's done with the Raiders, and the Raiders didn't want to take a chance of him getting hurt, and they're going to try to work out a trade or something to get rid of him. I do see him maybe ending up in maybe like in Indianapolis, which I'd be fine with. I think Derek Carr is a good quarterback. I mean, if you look all the numbers he's put up and how many different coaches and coordinators he's had, he's never had the luxury of being like in a set system. I don't know if it's McDaniels or if it's just him, the system, McDaniel's system, and him, and he's having trouble picking it up. Because I know when McDaniels was in New England, you always heard when receivers went there that was a real hard offense to pick up. So maybe Carr's struggling getting McDaniel's system down. But I also think, to me, I think it's a move for the Raiders that I think the Raiders are going to try to make a push to get Tom Brady to play another year and go there to the Raiders with McDaniels, and they have Devontae Adams as a weapon. So I wouldn't be surprised if this isn't maybe a move towards them trying to get Brady in for next season.
I mean, there's a possibility that could happen. I think Brady is done after this season, though.
Think he's done? I don't know.
I think he's done. He's been in steady decline. I think this is the end for him. I think he'll finally come to his senses and say, you know what?
Come to his senses, damn.
Yeah, I think so. He's gonna come to his senses and say, you know what? I can't do this
anymore. The dude played at a high level last year. How is it he's coming to his senses?
Yeah,
this season he hasn't played at such a high level.
And he hasn't really. You look at his numbers; he hasn't played terrible this year. They just ain't been able to score points.
I think he's done in Tampa Bay, but I don't think he's done playing, just because I don't think he's going to go out like this.
No, I think he's going to play at least one more year.
He's not going to go out.
Even if he does go out like this, though, it still shouldn't really hurt his legacy.
Oh no.
With his competitive nature, though, this is not how he's going to go out. He's not going to go out with having the worst.
Right.
He's not going to go out having the worst season he's ever had. He's not going to go out with possibly missing the playoffs. If he's going to go out, he's going to go down swinging, whether it's in the playoffs, whether it's in the Super Bowl or something else. He's not going to go out basically 8-9, 9-8, limping into the playoffs and going home, kind of a first-round exit.
And then, I'll tell you this: you don't want to go to the Raiders then if they're going into a rebuild. You want to go to a team that is in win now mode, if you can.
Some people think maybe the 49ers.
Yeah, well, it would have put him close to home. He's from the Bay Area. Aaron Rodgers was also linked there at one point too. So yeah, he could end up with the 49ers as well. And if he that would be a great team for him because he could go out on top if he goes there.
I know.
He could ride off into the sunset with a Super Bowl championship. You look at the defense that the 49ers have.
Yeah, and I know it's a short sample size, but the 49ers look like they might have found their guy in Brock Purdy.
Mm-hmm. It's looking that way. And I know it's a small sample size, but hey, Purdy has looked impressive in such a short time. He has, commanded the offense. He has made big time plays. He has found his intended targets, has found his playmakers, put them in great situations to flourish. So, hey, the 49ers might be onto something with Purdy.
Yeah, yeah. Purdy's been impressive so far, and he's
Oh, he's
doing what
been
he has to do in
absolutely
that system.
outstanding.
He's doing what he
Yeah,
has to do in that system. He's surrounded by so many weapons that he just has to manage the game. Don't turn the ball over. Don't make the big mistake. That's
right.
all he has to do because you have one of the best defenses in the league, and then you're surrounded with weapons. Just don't make that big mistake, and you're going to be in ball games because of your defense.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what the 49ers have done so well, right? Is that their defense uh, takes a lot of pressure off of the offense. And the offense doesn't really have to do much because the defense is able to carry, the team for the most part. That's what's so exceptional about the 49ers. What's up, Mike?
What's up, Mike
What
Hughes?
up, Jay? What's
What
going
up?
on, man?
Thanks for joining the show
Nothing.
tonight. Where are you driving
Yes,
to?
sir.
He's rolling
I
through
just dropped.
Chicago.
I just dropped my girl off, so I'm just Gonzo hit it, 100%.
Nice. It's great to see you, man. We haven't really collaborated in a while. It's been a minute.
Nah, not in a minute. Not in a minute.
Yeah,
It's been a while.
I didn't even tell Jonathan that you was going to come on, so it was a surprise to him.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah. I'm sorry, I'm late. I am sorry, I'm late.
No,
it's okay.
I did it.
Hey, you're fashionably late. That's okay. I'm okay with that.
The
no,
Chicago way, baby.
The
we
Chicago
were
way.
talking Raiders benching Derek Carr for the last two games and basically removing him from the team. Uh,
Yeah.
what's your thoughts on that, and where do you think Derek Carr might end up at?
It must be fucking nice. It must be nice. I wish they benched Justin Fields. No reason to play. But whatever, that's a whole different conversation. But no, I mean, I think it speaks volumes. I think it really does. One of the biggest issues I feel like going on right now in the Raiders organization. Jonathan's here. I almost said the Lakers organization. I know my guys talking all Lakers all the time, but same problem is you really don't know who the face of your franchise is, and Derek Carr is in a weird situation contractually. I mean, you look at his situation right now. He has a no trade clause for the next remaining of his contract, which I believe is 4 years, and he's making a pretty penny playing these next 4 years. But the conversation is if they cut him at the end of this season. There's a lot of money that's taken off of that, and they don't have to pay him as much. Now it's obviously going to hurt towards the cap, but it's better to get away from it now than later on. So, they're not going to be able to trade him. That's just not in the conversation. So, Gonzo, I think, Gonzo. I think that's the answer to that question. I think he's going to be an Indianapolis Colt. I think that's how it's going to look. They love giving white boys their third or fourth chance in the league. That's just what it is. But no, in all seriousness, I don't think this is a conversation if they don't have a top 5 pick. If they weren't getting Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud or I believe his name is Lewis or somebody else, within
Levis.
that top 5, yeah, Levis, pardon me, thank you, but I don't think they make this move. But with them being in that position, and potentially even getting a top 2 pick, depending on what happens with the Chicago Bears and obviously the Houston Texans, it's going to be really interesting to see what pans out with that. But I would say I'm gonna go off on a limb I'm gonna say he ends up in Green Bay. That's how I feel.
And I'll be honest, if he does end up in Indianapolis, I wouldn't be mad because I don't think Carr's a bad quarterback. I mean, he's had a lot of
No,
different coaches, went through a lot of different systems, and he's been competitive. So I mean, I wouldn't be mad if the Colts made that move because I don't know if you're going to find anybody better than him right now.
And I also like how he takes accountability. He's not like Zach Wilson, who's gonna say that it was the win that caused him to have a terrible game. That's not Derek Carr's character, right? So that's what I like about Derek Carr too, is that he takes on leadership, and people have always said great things about him. Unfortunately, it has not worked out in Vegas. Whatever's going on, we don't have the whole story, but it's obvious that his days in Vegas is coming to an end gradually, and he will be given a change of scenery and able to do it somewhere else next season, most likely.
Yeah.
And then
I do think though, my bad, Gonzo, but Gonzo and I actually talked about this on the afternoon show. I think there's a difference between taking accountability and learning from your mistakes. I do, like, Derek's been in the league for a very long time. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, especially for a quarterback. Not everybody's Rodgers, not everybody's Brady. But at some point, I do want to see Derek Carr actually start winning football games. I think there's a conversation of, oh, well, before he got injured, I think it was like 2016, 2015, they were on an amazing run, and had they not got injured, and as Pride said earlier,
he might have been
about his
MVP that
aunt.
year.
Right, but Pride made an analogy earlier about his aunt, and if you don't know that analogy, you could definitely check it out on my Facebook. I'm not going to repeat it, but it's basically saying your aunt could be your uncle, but she's not, and that's just the reality. So I mean, we coulda, shoulda, woulda. Darren Waller, obviously Hunter Renfrow. You bring in Josh Jacobs off a injured season last year. Josh Jacobs is looking like the second coming of Derrick Henry right now, and CMC combined, and then you have Devontae Adams. So I don't. There comes a point where I'm like, I don't care what the system is. It's you at the end of the day. So I think Derek Carr is a good quarterback, but I wouldn't say Derek Carr is a winner. I guess if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. Then Judge, you wanted to talk about Nathaniel Hackett getting fired, not even making it through his first full season. Where do you think Denver's going to go from here?
Yeah, that's a good question. You're hearing Sean Payton's name being mentioned a lot lately. I heard a story that he is putting together an all-star coaching staff to prepare for next season, and he wants to coach again. Denver could be one of the teams that he ends up going to. If Denver takes that next step and decide to hire Sean Payton, I think Sean Payton would be good for them. I think Sean Payton will, install a winning culture. I think Sean Payton will turn things around for that organization. I think that's the voice that they need moving forward. Nathaniel Hackett clearly wasn't the answer, shouldn't have been hired in the first place. The only reason he got the job because the Denver Broncos thought they were in play for Aaron Rodgers. And they really thought that they were going to land him in a trade. It didn't happen, so the Broncos got stuck with Nathaniel Hackett. But it's bigger than the coaching, obviously. But I do like Sean Payton. I think he's a suitable fit for that organization, and I think he will do a terrific job redirecting that franchise and getting that franchise back to where it once was, because they're in bad shape right now. There's obviously a lot of infighting. There's obviously a lot of friction in that locker room. There's a lot of turmoil, and there's no chemistry. There's no continuity as well. So Sean Payton is that guy who could be the backbone for that organization, and I just like the person he is and what he stands for, and that he holds his players to a certain standard. And I think that would be great for the Denver Broncos. But the bigger problem is Russell Wilson. We're hearing all these stories about Russell Wilson, and it could be hearsay for all we know. I mean, it could just be rumors. We're not there to see what's really going on. But then you're hearing players complain about him getting special treatment. Players are
Ooh.
complaining because he has a parking his own parking space and now apparently his own office. So there's a lot of division. There's people going back and forth at each other. You got offensive linemen going at it with the backup quarterback, Russell Wilson going at it with offensive linemen. That can't happen. As a quarterback, you got to be the leader. So I think Russell Wilson is also the problem, but I think with Sean Payton and his presence, I think that could um, help, kind of, uh, get things back to where it was.
What do you think about and this one's for anybody. This is my personal question because Jay, I think you make great arguments, but how much of a say do you think Russell Wilson has with the organization right now about who he wants as the head coach? Because to me, it's like if
100%.
I mean that's the issue though. If no one on the team likes you and you're the problem in the organization, do you really have that much of a say?
Because I said this, I think Darrell Bevel's going to end up the coach in Denver because Russell Wilson's best years are when Darrell Bevel was his offensive coordinator. And if you give Russell Wilson, not even if you give Russell Wilson 50% say in the coaching hire, he's going to ask for Darrell Bevel to interview. He's going to ask for Brian Schottenheimer to interview because Brian Schottenheimer was also his offensive coordinator in Seattle when he had basically his best year ever.
Right. But I think that's the issue right now is, it's not like respectfully, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, if they go into the offense and say, hey, I'd like this individual to be interviewed, I don't think anybody in the organization would have a problem with it because they're stand-up guys. But if Russ really is creating as much friction as people are saying he is, kind of trying to be bigger than himself with this huge ego, which has always been there. I don't know why people think that's new. Like he's always kind of been that douchebaggy Hollywood kind of guy, but he's just different about it because his wife is more famous than he is. But that's a whole different. Anyways, but that's my shot of the day, Gonzo. But yeah, I mean, me personally, if I'm the organization, I do what's best for my franchise for the next 5 to 10 years. I don't care about Russell Wilson. And to Jonathan's point, if I'm Sean Payton doesn't play that shit. Like Sean Payton's going to check that at the door very quickly. So if I'm Sean Payton, I might not even take that job.
Yeah, right. Especially with all that's going on right now in that organization with Russell Wilson and him
I mean, how much
with other players.
how much of it was Hackett and how was is on Wilson?
I think 95% of it's on Nathaniel Hackett because he had no business. He had no business being a head coach.
It's a good amount. I watched a lot of their play. It was just, you have different versions. And I think Gonzo hit it on the head talking about Indy just a few weeks ago. I believe Saturday could have looked a lot better than he is if Jonathan Taylor's fully healthy. But even when Williams was healthy, even when Gordon was there, I mean, Gordon ran out the door. Gordon was like, F this. I don't want to be here. Like, that's the state that it's at. So, you can't run the ball well. You don't have a great defense. You have Patrick Surtain II, who's a dog. But other than that, there's not really much going on. You got Chubb traded. There's just Nathaniel Hackett was such an issue. And, to Dustin's point, too, I don't really even fully believe that was fully, we're getting Aaron Rodgers hired. I just felt like that was a play in it. That was a part of it. But I truly do believe that the GM and the front office of them, John Elway and everybody, they all go hand in hand. They're all awful. And I think everybody in the Broncos organization should be fired.
Don't you remember his opening press conference, too? They were asking him questions about, like, how he planned to coach the team. And he's like, I don't know how I'm going to coach this team yet. If it's 4th and 18 and I decide to call a fake punt and give it to the punter, we're going to give it to the punter and let him run for 25 yards. And if that's your first remarks in a press conference, that's a red flag right there.
Oh, a big red flag. I would have turned his mic off right away.
Right. And, from a lack of situational awareness to questionable play calling to his stubbornness to give up play calling duties. It was the latest casualty for that Denver Broncos team. And that's why they are in the state they are in, because he didn't know what the heck he was doing.
Well,
And he had zero experience and he had no business being a head coach.
they're in a
Right.
bad situation because you got that bad Russell Wilson contract now
That too.
that you signed him to. So you got to stick with Wilson. So now you got to try to find a
You
coach
stuck with him. You're
that can
stuck with
get
him.
him back to playing at a better level.
And it's clearly the worst trade in NFL history. You heard me say that the other day.
He said
It's
it
the
in
worst
NFL
trade.
history.
I disagree with you on that one, Jonathan, just because I find it very difficult that Russell Wilson forgot how to play football in 1 year.
I
And
hope you're right.
if you look at if you look at the Nathaniel Hackett offense, the Nathaniel Hackett offense is an offense designed to be run by Aaron Rodgers and his strengths. It's not designed to be run by Russell Wilson and his strengths, and I think that was the biggest issue, that Hackett put in a specific offensive scheme because he was hoping to get a specific quarterback, and when he didn't get that quarterback, he never adjusted the offensive scheme to suit the best strengths of his new quarterback.
Yeah, you got a good point there. But the Denver Broncos, man, they gave up a lot. They gave up a couple firsts, couple seconds. They gave up 4 players. They basically mortgaged their future for a veteran quarterback that they thought would help them win now, and it has turned out to backfire. And now they're in this situation.
I wonder,
It's very complex and perplexing.
maybe you could see a swap between Las Vegas and Broncos.
Maybe.
Sorry, what was that, Mike? You cut out. I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, my bad, Big Gunny. My bad. I said maybe you could get a swap between the Raiders and the Broncos for Wilson, and obviously, they're gonna cut Carr, so the Broncos could. I don't know. I don't know what goes into that. There's a whole contract thing. I'm just throwing it out there. Probably can't actually happen, but Stat Guy's my guy for that one. I don't know if Wilson has a no trade clause.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that either. Do you think that the Broncos would be a job Sean Payton would be interested in?
No, I don't think so. I think the thing, and we talked about it the other day as well. I truly stand by this, especially looking at Jonathan's Rams, looking at the Tampa Bay Bucks when they won with Brady. They truly were a quarterback away. They needed Tom Brady. They needed Matthew Stafford at the time. They had everything else. There were 52 men on that roster, and then including the coaching staff, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Los Angeles Rams, before they made their quarterback trade, were one guy away. Maybe you make the conversation, well, you bring in Odell as well, you bring in Gronk. But the biggest thing for me is the Broncos thought that they were a quarterback away. They weren't. I mean, they really weren't. Noah Fant, who's a stud in my opinion, leaves. Obviously, that leaves a huge question mark with Albert and what he's going to be at the tight end position. You lose Chubb. You lose a big part of your defense. Kyle Fuller and company are gone. Bryce Callahan's aging. You lose your defensive coordinator and Vic Fangio, who was your better head coach, if you ask me. Might have actually done well with Russell Wilson. I don't know. But, there's so many things for me where when I look at Sean Payton.
Then you lose Javonte Williams.
Yeah, you have Javonte Williams, but the biggest thing Jonathan said was, Sean Payton's putting together, from what we're hearing, I don't know what that looks like. I'm curious to see what that looks like. An all-star coaching.
They've already announced who he has as his offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator.
I'll definitely have to check that out. But
Vic Fangio is the defensive coordinator.
Then my guy ain't going back to Denver doing that shit. Like, no way. He's not going back to Denver to be the defensive
Who's the offensive coordinator?
The offensive coordinator is Ken Wisenhunt.
That's not bad. But I think my biggest thing with that is, you have an all-star unit of coaches, but you don't have an all-star team. So I think that's where you look at teams like the Dallas Cowboys, who have a pretty sustainable roster right now. You look at other teams like maybe the Chargers or the Raiders, or, teams that are just a little bit closer than the Denver Broncos. I mean, hell, I would take them on the Chicago Bears. Matt Eberflus hasn't impressed me at all. But, and a big one too, and I know my guy Stat Guy might not like it, But the Detroit Lions, to me, the Detroit Lions are right there. And I like Dan Campbell as like a vocal leader. But when you talk about strategically understanding the game of football, 10 times better you bring in Sean Payton and his team.
Yeah, I can't argue that. And I'm a Dan Campbell fan as well. I like Dan Campbell.
I like him
Yeah,
too.
and I
like
think he's
him a
doing
lot.
good there in Detroit. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep, I like
I-
Dan
I
Campbell
don't-
too. I like his energy and his fiery demeanor, and I think that his Lions players have taken on his personality, and it has had an effect on a positive effect on that team. You can see it each week.
Yes, sir.
sorry, Oregon just scored a touchdown to probably win this game against North Carolina with like 15 seconds left.
What
I
bowl
will
game is
be
that? What
I
bowl
will
game?
be right back though, fellas. I gotta go park really quick.
Okay, we'll see you in a minute. What bowl
Hey,
game is that?
Chris, were you talking about Drake May earlier?
Yeah.
I'm going to say this right now. Do not be surprised if Drake May ends up in Wisconsin.
Tell you what, man,
Because
he can throw the ball.
because his offensive coordinator from this year went to Wisconsin to be Luke Fickell's offensive coordinator. So don't be surprised if Drake May has maybe a little bit of a down year next year. I'm not saying he's going to have a terrible year, but just to go and say if he has a little bit of a down year compared to what he had this year, don't be surprised if he ends up transferring to Wisconsin to rejoin the offensive coordinator.
Jonathan, it's the Holiday Bowl. There's 1 second left. North Carolina has
Okay,
has
that's
to
the bowl
score.
game that's played in San Diego.
But it was
that one's played here. And
Oregon scored a touchdown with 15 seconds left and got the extra point to get up by 1 point.
oh wow, that is
Drake
a
May just threw a Hail Mary. So yeah, Oregon ended up winning the game. But yeah, North Carolina was in the lead the whole game until the last 15 seconds.
Wow. Yeah, it seems like it was a pretty good game. Too bad I didn't watch it. I did watch the Lakers though.
I haven't watched no NBA
But of
tonight.
course, they damn near gave me a heart attack again.
I watched my Pacers win another game last night, but I didn't watch no NBA tonight. I've been watching college football. Like I said, bowl games have been good, man. I know Stat Guy had a little bit of baseball. He wanted to talk some Carlos Correa. We'll do that, and I wanted to also talk a little bit of NBA because I wanted to talk about Luka Doncic's big night last night. Let's jump
Then
into
we
a
get
little
into
bit
the
of baseball.
Eagles too. We'll get into Jalen Hurts a little bit.
Oh yeah, Eagles. Let's do the Eagles first. Let's go ahead and go with the Eagles first.
All right.
What do you think the Eagles are going to do with Jalen Hurts? Do you think they're going to set him the rest of the season? And if they do you think that's a good choice? We've seen quarterbacks struggle coming off a bye week, let alone 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, but I don't think there is a reason to bring back Jalen Hurts before the playoffs. You should rest him. Let him get 100% healthy. Make sure he's ready to go. I think you rest him. You sit him out. There's no reason to play him. The Eagles should double down on resting Hurts until the playoffs now. That's what I think. I think you take it slow. You don't rush him back. There's no need. Let Gardner Minshew take over for now. He has proven that he is capable. Yes, they lost a game against the Dallas Cowboys.
Sitting out that long, don't worry you about coming back and having rust after sitting out that long.
That doesn't concern me. It doesn't concern me one bit. You want him healthy because he's your guy.
I understand you want him healthy, but we've also
I'm not worried about.
We've also seen quarterbacks struggle when they get long,
right
when you don't play.
That's true.
You lose that rhythm.
That's true. I'm not worried about him losing his rhythm more than anything. I just want his body to heal right, and so he's able to get back on the field. I think Jalen Hurts is that damn good that he will make an impact when he does come back. He's going to do everything he can to do everything he can to get healthy in time. And the Eagles, man, regardless, they're going to clinch the division. the Eagles can't clinch the NFC East and the number one seed in the the NFC are the number one seed in the NFC playoffs with either a win over the Saints or the Giants. So I mean, even if you lose this game, you still got a chance to clinch the division, which I think they will. They're going to hold on, no question about it. But I think the best remedy for Hurts' shoulder is rest and rehab. And here's another thing, too, guys. If Hurts sits out the rest of the regular season, he'll get 5 weeks of rest. If the Eagles clinch the number one seed, and then he'll get 4 weeks if they don't. So, I mean, I think they'll be fine. I think you take it slow. You trust the process. You let him heal. You let him get completely healthy, and then you hopefully he'll be ready to go when the playoffs come.
See, that's the thing though, Jonathan. At this point, the Eagles can't afford to rest him because if Philadelphia loses next week or this week and Minnesota wins, they're tied for the top seed. Granted, Philadelphia has that tiebreaker, but at that point they have to play Jalen Hurts in the final game of the season because I would rather have Minnesota come to Philadelphia than Philadelphia go to Minnesota. So even if rest is the best option, the only game that matters right now for Philadelphia is less so their game this weekend and more so if Green Bay can beat Minnesota. Because if Green Bay beats Minnesota, then Philadelphia can sit Jalen Hurts because they have everything locked up. But if Minnesota wins and Philadelphia loses, that final game of the regular season is going to determine home field. And if I'm Philadelphia, Minnesota plays Chicago week 17.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure Minnesota is going to beat Chicago in week 17, which means at that point you have to play Jalen Hurts just to make sure that you can clinch that home field.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
That's a fair argument for sure. I think the Eagles though. I think they trust Gardner. I think they trust him. He didn't have that bad of a performance. I mean, he was okay. He could have been better. But the guy didn't really have much game action, until last week. So let's see how he plays this upcoming week. I know a quarterback hasn't been decided. I don't think a quarterback has been decided this week. But I think you stay with Minshew. I think he's your best bet right now.
What do you think, Mike Hughes?
About
what do the Eagles do? Do they rest Jalen Hurts the rest of the regular season, or do you have to play him these last 2 games and make sure you get that home field advantage in the number one seed?
Jalen plays the last game. That's the way I would see it. I think you give Jalen as much time as possible, but one, you want home field advantage throughout the entirety of the playoffs, which all you need to do is win 1 game. I don't know who they play this week, but I love Minshew. He the same reason I love Trubisky. Got all the heart in the world, but they do not suffice in what the Eagles' offense is supposed to look like. So, one biggest key factor is rust. You don't want Jalen Hurts to be rusty in his first playoff game, first really big playoff game he's ever played as a Philadelphia Eagle. So you really don't want that. So you want him to have those reps, at least in the final game of the season. I would play Jalen the last game, especially if you haven't clinched the home field advantage already.
Yeah, I think that's what they'll do. Sit him this week and then maybe play him in the last week if you don't have it clinched.
My stomach hurt.
Which I
Sorry.
Which I think I'd at least set him this week. But then if I don't know, I'd almost play him the last week too, just because I'm afraid of the rest aspect. Because you see a lot of these guys. I mean, I've watched it year after year with Peyton Manning in Indianapolis. We get a first round bye, and we wouldn't play the last couple weeks of the season, and we go into the playoffs, and our offense looked terrible.
Yeah, no, definitely,
because we had 3-4 weeks without playing any football,
without a doubt.
Jonathan, was there any other NFL topic you want to talk about before we went to baseball?
weren't we gonna talk about the Dallas Cowboys and
Cowboys.
and if they can win the Super Bowl or not?
Hell no.
What do you think? Are the Cowboys a Super Bowl threat?
No, I don't think they can make a run to the Super Bowl, and here's why. Every year they have you believing, right? And then when they get to the playoffs, they find a way to blow it, and I think that's what the Dallas Cowboys do best. I don't think Dak Prescott it is good enough to make the plays at the right time. And that's what they're going to need him to do. They're going to need him to make some big time plays and some big time throws in big moments. And I just don't think he's capable of doing that. So if you're going to have a quarterback that's not going to play a clean game and that's going to turn over the ball in critical moments of the game, then you can pretty much forget it. Your season is not going to go very far. And I know they have a damn good defense. They have an all-pro defense. They have a smothering defense that gets after the quarterback. They have a pretty good secondary, but the secondary hasn't played their best football lately. Micah Parsons, they rely on him so much to be that guy that puts a lot of pressure on the quarterback, but they need help from other guys on that defensive front as well. I just don't see it with the Dallas Cowboys. And there's times that the Dallas Cowboys, they play undisciplined football and they wait to the damnedest moments to do that. And that usually happens in the playoffs. So if Dak Prescott doesn't clean up his game and he continues to throw pick sixes and continues to throw interceptions and give the ball to the opposite guy in a different color jersey, then no, the Cowboys are not gonna be a Super Bowl threat, and I just don't see it. That's the reality of it.
Bigger question to me is Dak Prescott a quarterback that can lead Dallas to a Super Bowl?
No.
See, I don't think so.
He's somebody.
No, he's the next Tony Romo. He's the second coming of Tony Romo. Tony Romo put up great numbers during the regular season. The only difference is that Dak Prescott hasn't put up the greatest numbers during the regular season because those numbers are lost because he continues to throw interceptions.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's Tony Romo. I would give Tony a little bit more love than that. But not much, but a little bit. I think Dak, I'm gonna actually ask Stat Guy. Stat Guy, are you here, sir? I think he's at work.
Well, yeah, what do you need?
All right, man. Fill me in on the 2018 Bears defense. How great were they, in your opinion?
I would say probably top 10 in the last decade for sure, and probably even top 10 within the last 25 years, just because they had one or two playmakers at every position. You had Eddie Goldman and Akeem Nicks up front. You had Khalil Mack, Roquan Smith, Danny Trevathan in the middle. You had Eddie Jackson, Adrian Amos, Jalen Johnson, and Kyle Fuller on the outside. They really did not have a whole lot of defense.
Now, Gonzo, why I brought that up to the defense that scored more touchdowns than most teams in the league. At the end of the day, bro, I had Mitchell Trubisky as quarterback. So I love the Dallas defense. The Dallas defense is phenomenal. Micah Parsons is the truth. But you got Dak at the helm. And you've seen time and time again, that's just how it goes, man. It's a quarterback-driven league. And I think that's really what separates good teams from great teams is, who can you trust in the very last moments of a game to really just sling that shit down there. And at the end of the day, we might look at the weapons of the Las Vegas Raiders, but who's throwing that football? I think, one, you got to have – you got to be a psychopath. I truly believe that. At the quarterback position, which I was third string in high school. Third strings. Hey, first string safety, third string quarterback. So I did start. I don't know why. I think it was, honestly, it's because I was white. But I was the only white guy on the team. Had to put me at quarterback. But I was like Ryan Gosling and Remember the Titans. But it reminds me so much of the Dallas team right now with that Chicago Bears team because at the end of the day, man, you could have Devontae Adams and Renfro and Waller and Jacobs and everybody else. And in this situation, you could have CD, Gallup, Hilton, which, whatever, Zeke, Pollard, all these guys. Schultz. I love Schultz. Schultz is a dog. But at the end of the day, Jonathan, who's throwing that football?
Who else? Dak Prescott.
Like, come on, man. What are we talking about? Like, I can't trust that man with my life. I can't trust that man. You know, we need 50 yards to sling it down like the Patrick Mahomes play against the Bills last year. That was phenomenal. But at the end of the day, if you told me name 3 other quarterbacks that could have made that play, no one's making that play. No one's making that play. So it's nah, man. Dak's
Right.
awful. I'm not going to slander him, but Dak's awful.
Exactly. And, you know, I don't like, and I mentioned that last week too. I don't like the slander and the hate that he gets, but, you know, a lot of times when he takes shots down the field, it's an interception.
Right.
You know, because he's not making the right decisions with the football, but we know that he's talented. We know that the talent's there. You know, we know that Jerry Jones obviously believes in him because he paid him. You know, he paid him to be his starting quarterback. So, you know, you see something there in him, and he definitely has the qualities. He's definitely a competitor. He's tough because this is a guy who has fought through injuries and found a way to get back on the field, but he just makes the damnedest decisions at the worst possible time, and you know the Cowboys end up paying for it. And the defense, man, they do everything they can to give the ball back to the Cowboys and to keep the game close, and then the offense finds a way to let them down because of Dak Prescott and his play on the field.
Well, I see. I think it's some Dak Prescott, but also I think some of it's Kellen Moore.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then, but Prescott leads the league in interceptions since he came back from his injury. And to me, if the Cowboys would have if Kellen Moore would have kept the same game plan and kept calling the plays the same way he did when Cooper Rush was quarterbacking that team, when Dak Prescott came back, I think Dallas is better. Get that run game going. Rely on that two-headed monster you have right now with Pollard and Zeke.
See, that's the question for me though, Gonzo. You know, you asked me earlier who should play versus Hurts and Minshew, but I think the conversation should be should you go back to Cooper Rush?
And there's a lot of Cowboy fans that's been asking for that. You know, they've been wanting to see Cooper Rush as the starter and not Dak Prescott because they have completely lost trust in him and they just don't think that he is going to get it done for them. So they want to see Cooper Rush because they know how the momentum, how the Dallas Cowboys were able to maintain momentum when he was out there on the field. That they were able to keep the train moving with him as the quarterback. So I think a lot of people want to see that experiment again. And I think a lot of people would like to see the Cowboys try that out again. But you're not about to bench a quarterback that you paid a lot of money for.
Right.
You know, and that's the only reason why I don't see that move happening because Dak Prescott got paid to be a franchise quarterback. Now, has he lived up to that? No, not at all, because he makes a lot of mistakes with the football. But you know, you got to leave him in there and see what he can give you on offense. But I think another thing that the Cowboys need to do better, not be one-dimensional. Run the football more. You know, establish the run game. You got a dynamic running back in Tony Pollard. You know, he has taken a step forward in his game, has made tremendous progress.
And honestly, Zeke hasn't been bad this year.
What?
I said, honestly, Zeke Elliott hasn't been bad this year.
He hasn't been bad. And that's because you can use him on certain downs.
Right.
You know, you can use him in a variety of ways now that you have Tony Pollard. And, you know, you're not relying on him so much to gain a chunk of the yards. You got Tony Pollard to do that for you. So, I mean, I think the Cowboys need to focus more on that running game, and that would open things up for Dak Prescott, and maybe that would make life easier for him as well.
Right. I think Zeke had a horrible start, but he's finished really strong so far on the year.
Yep.
Which is kind of
what do you think about the Cowboys stat guy? Oh, my bad, Mike.
No, you're good.
My thoughts on the Cowboys? Is that what you were asking?
Yeah.
My thoughts on the Cowboys are it's less about Dak Prescott and it's more about the Cowboys are only going to go as far as Kellen Moore takes them.
Right.
And if you look at Dak Prescott, yes, Dak Prescott makes a lot of mistakes, but he's also been one of the best statistical quarterbacks the last 3 years. The problem with Dallas is they have Tony Pollard, they have Ezekiel Elliott, and they have the personnel to be a run-first football team. But when you're paying Dak Prescott the money you're paying him, you're still trying to be a pass-first football team. And that's kind of the identity crisis they're in right now is they have a quarterback that's making elite quarterback money, so they want to be a pass-first team. But when you look at the personnel they have in place, they need to rely on the run, and that opens up things for the pass. And come the playoffs, if they're going to be going on the road to Philadelphia, going on the road to San Francisco, and a lot of these places where the elements might not be the greatest, they need to change their identity to become that run-first football team because if they can do that, that defense is good enough to make it to the Super Bowl just because they get after the quarterback and they can first force turnovers.
Let me ask you guys this. How far does Dallas have to get from Mike McCarthy to keep his job?
Eastern Conference, NFC Championship.
I don't know. I think if Sean Payton, man, if he wants to make a comeback, I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if Jerry Jones, for once, make a change. I say for once because very rarely do you see this guy make a change. He is so loyal. He is inflexible. This guy is so stubborn that he rarely accepts change. But I think,
my only thing with that judge is that Sean Payton's going to want full control. And do you think Jerry Jones is going to give him control?
He's going to have to eventually give up his ego if he wants his football team to get back to the Super Bowl. He's going to have to eventually subjugate his ego, give up his power. That's something that he has not been able to do in recent memory, but he's going to have to. And I think Jerry Jones, realizing that reality is starting to set in and that he's getting older, I think I said this before that he's a bit more pragmatic now, and if you want to win a Super Bowl, you're going to have to, finally turn to a coach who is going to put his foot down, who's going to say, you know what? No, you're going to let me run the team the way I want to run it so things can run smoothly. And you're going to give me the ability to make my own personnel decisions. And I think if he goes in that direction, he's going to have to give leeway to a guy like Sean Payton. And why wouldn't you want to give it? Why would you want to give him a lot of control? Because he knows what he's doing. He's won the Super Bowl. He's a Super Bowl winning coach, and that's what you need. You need a Super Bowl winning coach.
But so is McCarthy, though. McCarthy won the Super Bowl the year after Sean Payton did. So you can't really use the argument that Sean Payton's a Super Bowl winning coach because Mike McCarthy's a Super Bowl winning coach. Mike McCarthy has a higher winning percentage than Sean Payton. Mike McCarthy's been to the playoffs a lot more than Sean Payton. And if you want to say, well, look at the quarterbacks they had, Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers, you can argue that Sean Payton had a better quarterback than what Mike McCarthy had, and yet McCarthy consistently made the playoffs as opposed to Sean Payton.
That's a good point. You still have to take into account that he had Aaron Rodgers when he was in Green Bay as well. So, I mean, I don't know. No disrespect to Mike McCarthy. I'm not throwing shade at him. I think he's done a fairly good job in his time in Dallas. But, now you get this fancy name that's available, and that's Sean Payton. And it's also been said that he would love to coach in Dallas because that's his dream job. And a lot of people believe that's why he took the year off, right? So he can get that Dallas Cowboys job in the event that Mike McCarthy got let go by the Dallas Cowboys.
So, say they make it to the NFC Championship game and lose. You think McCarthy gets fired? You think they change coaches?
I think there's a possibility that we can see that. I mean, I don't know, though. If Sean Payton gets hired somewhere else, I'll be very surprised to see Mike McCarthy get fired. I think the only way he gets fired if they don't go deep into the playoffs and if Sean Payton is still available for hire.
I think the only way that McCarthy gets fired is if they lose to Tampa Bay.
I'm gonna say get put out in first round.
Otherwise, even if they make it out of that first round, he's not getting fired, even if Sean Payton is available. You can't fire a coach that is most likely going to finish the season 12-5 with the possibility of going 13-4. 13-4, 99% of the time is not only going to win your division, but you can actually get home field advantage with a 13-4 record. So you're not going to get rid of it. You're not going to get rid of it.
Right.
Yeah, they lost their one of their receivers in Amari Cooper the last couple of years. So it's basically been CeeDee Lamb and nobody else. You had Dak Prescott hurt for what, 4 or 5 games at the beginning of the season when they had to go with Cooper Rush, and yet the team is still in the position they're in.
Michael Gallup is hurt too for a bit.
Yeah, Mike McCarthy deserves a lot more credit for this season than what he gets. Because any other coach that would have been put in that situation, not having Michael Gallup, not having Dak Prescott, would be lucky to be sitting at 500 right now.
Yeah, that's true. No, I think McCarthy's done a good job in Dallas, but you keep hearing, oh, if they don't win a Super Bowl, he's going to be gone. But I think as long as he don't get put out, like Stat Guy said in that first round against, is he going to be what, Tampa or Carolina?
Yeah, but see, that's the thing too. How often does Jerry Jones fire coaches after a bad playoff run? We've seen him hold on to Jason Garrett for a long period of time, you know. So again, this is a guy who doesn't adapt to change really well, and he's inflexible, you know, and he's been that way for many years. You know, that's nothing new about Jerry Jones.
Before we get out of here, let's talk a little bit of baseball. I know Stat Guy want to talk some Carlos Correa. What do you want to talk about, Stat Guy?
I think Correa is done. I think Correa is done in terms of he's never going to see a contract bigger than 5 years ever again. And if you look at the injury that he has, that everyone's concerned about, it's not even an injury that they're concerned about. When he was in the minor leagues 9 years ago, he suffered a serious broken leg on a slide at second base when he was playing shortstop. He needed 2 metal plates put in the lower part of his leg. That is the concern that a lot of people have right now, is that those metal plates need to be replaced in the next couple of years. Once that happens, those plates are going to have to be replaced every 8 to 10 years. So you sign a guy to a 12-year contract, you're going to have to replace those plates at least twice during the tenure of that contract, which means at most you're going to get 10 years out of that 12 years out of him, because he'll be sitting out an entire year once you get those plates replaced. So now nobody wants to give him that long-term deal, because the longer he plays, the more likely it is that he's going to have those plates replaced. So now you have, I think they said yesterday, 12 teams have already contacted the Mets about what they're going to do, because the Mets have already said they're not giving him a 12-year contract. The Mets have countered with an 8-year, $265 million contract, and Carlos Correa is not budging on the 12-year contract. So if he continues to hold tight on this 12-year deal, the Mets are not going to sign him. They're going to let him hit free agency again. And there's already 7 or 8 teams that have been willing to give Correa a 4-year, $150 to $160 million offer. He might be put in a similar situation like he was put in last year, where you sign a 3-4 year deal for a lot of annual money. The team gives you an opt-out after year 1 and year 2, and you can try your luck elsewhere, but he's not getting a contract more than 5 years, because nobody's going to take that risk knowing that the plates are going to have to be replaced soon.
Well, if he goes back on the market, he's going to have to lower his price, and he's going to have to take a shorter deal. If no one's going to offer him the deal that he's seeking, he's going to have to settle for what he can get, the offer that's out there. You know, and I'm with you, Stat Guy. I think he might get a deal like similar to the one he got in Minnesota.
No, I agree, and that's probably going to be the kind of deals he's going to get from here on out is going to get these 3-4 year deals with maybe the player option, and maybe try, like Stat Guy said, try free agency again next year. But you're never going to get a contract over no set. I don't think over 6-7 years.
Yeah, the Cubs have already said the Cubs already said they're willing to give him a 4-year, $160 million contract with an opt out after year 2. Giants have already said they're willing to give him a 4-year deal. Twins are ready to give him a 4 or 5 year deal with an opt out after year 2 or 3. But right now, the situation is people know that he's worth that kind of money, but how long can he play at that kind of level before that leg becomes a serious concern? Even with the designated hitter, if those plates need to be replaced, you're not going to be able to stand. So it's not going to matter if you have a DH or not, and nobody's going to invest that kind of financial responsibility on the guy that they may only get 5-6 good years out of him before he hits a heavy decline. Or like I said, if he does sign a 12-year contract, you're guaranteed to miss 2 years of that contract having 2 surgeries to replace those plates.
I can see their logic.
Why wouldn't this ever talked about?
Sign him to
Why wouldn't this ever talked about when he's signed his other contracts? Why
Why-
this a big deal? Was it just
why do you
because he
thi-
wouldn't go
why
get a
do you think-
long-term deal?
Why do you think he only got the contract that he got last year? He hit the free agent market last year, and he was the prized free agent last year. There wasn't that group of shortstops that they had on the market this year. There wasn't the group of pitchers that they had on the market this year last year. Carlos Correa was that prized free agent last year. And he was trying to get that 8 to 10 year, $30 to $35 million contract last year. And what did he take? A 3-year, $110 million deal with a opt out after year 1. Why was that? Because there was concerns with his physical last year. This isn't the first time that there's been issues with his physical. It's just been more brought to the center of attention this year because of the 2 contracts that he signed, or 2 contracts that he was in agreement with this 13 years at 350 and then 12 years at 315. Last year during the free agent process, he never actually accepted a deal. It was more so teams were talking to him, found out that there was concerns about his physical, and then they really never offered him anything, which is why he kind of had to take that 3-year deal by the Twins, because that was the best offer he was going to get. Now teams really jumped the gun because they wanted this high price shortstop. They wanted a guy like Correa, so they jumped the gun. They gave him the contract. They accepted the contract, and then they got him into the facility for the physical, and that's when the concerns started. So now Correa is basically in the situation where it's like, I either try to hold out and get my 12-year deal knowing that I'm not going to get it, or I have to just basically suck it up and say, if the best I can get right now from the Mets is 8 years at 265, I'm taking the 8 years at 265 and being done with it.
Yeah, and you know what? I think he will settle for the 8 years because I think he wants to be in a big city. I think he wants a chance to contend again, and he has that opportunity with the Mets. He's in a lineup that's good from top to bottom. I mean, you're part of a lineup that can give 15 hits on average per night. Guys that can, hit home runs and send balls flying over the fences. So he's in a good place, and I think he definitely would like to be with the Mets. He would have great teammates around him, Pete Alonso, Frankie Lindor, and then you can't say enough about the rotation and the bullpen. So he's on a championship contending team, and I think he wants to be in a place where he knows he can contend for a championship again. So I think he will by the time it's all said and done. I think he will be a Met, and I think
I don't think so at all, because Scott Boras has already said he's filing a grievance. And if Scott Boras says he's filing a grievance, that basically means that there's no progress being made at either side's camp at this point, and it's pretty much a done deal that there's going to be no resolutions made.
Oh damn! I didn't hear that story. Damn,
Scott Boras is pretty much filing a grievance because he thinks that teams are overreacting and basically are talking kind of behind his client's back, saying don't invest your money in Correa because of this instead of letting teams make the decision for themselves.
Hmm.
So if it goes to a grievance hearing, that's the end of any kind of deal with that organization.
Wow. Wow.
I would say what do you think? Max deal he's going to get is going to be a 4 or 5 year deal.
Yeah. Somewhere around there. Yeah.
I think he gets a 7-year deal for a desperate franchise. And I think I could see a team like the Dodgers or the Yankees giving him 7 years. Because the Yankees don't really have a shortstop. And the Dodgers lost Trey Turner, and they really haven't replaced Trey Turner.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I don't see him getting more than a 5-year deal. But if it comes down to it, I could see Dodgers or the Yankees giving him a 7-year deal. But I think that's the biggest he gets at this point.
But I think the Dodgers have, put themselves out of conversation. I don't think they're gonna get into the Carlos Correa sweepstakes because of what the fans think of Carlos Correa, which I think is utterly silly. Because I don't think you ever base your decisions based on what the fans want. You do it from an organizational standpoint, and you do what's in the best interest of your franchise. And I think Carlos Correa will be another bat that you can plug into that lineup, and he would definitely be a great replacement for Trey Turner at shortstop.
And I said this when the beginning of free agency started, when they were talking about all the free agent shortstops. If I could pick who I wanted in order 1 to 4, Correa was my number 4 choice because I don't trust Correa. You go back to the sign stealing scandal back in 2017. He was one of the leaders of that. Didn't take any accountability for it at all. Basically just said, well, every team does it, so we did it too. Well, they didn't do it the way you did it, and you can't even stand up there and admit that you were wrong for doing it the way you did it. Then he knew he had these plates put in his legs 8 years ago and really didn't go about telling teams that, hey, eventually I'm going to need these plates replaced. So if you're going to sign me, that's something that you need to be aware of. He's just a very shady individual that I never trusted. And I didn't want the Cubs to invest in a long-term contract on him because I didn't want to get stuck with him.
No, I agree. I'd like to see the Reds go after a big name player like that, but we're not going to go after. We're not going to spend that kind of money. Not right now, anyway. Well, Judge, anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here for tonight?
Man, this was a great show. Thanks for coming on, Stat Guy. We really love having you on our show. It's awesome, and we want to thank. We also want to thank Mike, my buddy Mike, for coming on tonight. I know he had to go. It was awesome, and thank you to our viewers out there for watching. Hey, what's up, Frankie? Thanks for commenting. Why are we always losing? Oh, I know why. Because all they do is turn the effing ball over. I hate my effing Lakers. Hey, you know how I feel. I don't know if you got over to TikTok and watched my rant tonight. The Lakers are done at this point. There is no way they will salvage their season. It's over for the Lakers. The Lakers turn over the ball more than a minimum wage job has turnovers among employees. I mean, it's just that awful. The Lakers are bad. They're horrific. It's a damn atrocity. It's a national embarrassment. It's bad. It's just bad. It's a state of emergency at this point for the Los Angeles Lakers. It is what it is, though. It is what it is. But I ranted enough. You guys can check out the video on my TikTok channel, Sports Judge, the Sports Judge 85. Check out my TikTok, the Sports Judge 85, and you will see where I went off on the Lakers tonight. And you guys can also look back at some of my videos on my YouTube channel, the Sports Judge 85, as well.
All right, yeah, like Judge said, we appreciate everybody joining us. Appreciate Mike Hughes for jumping on for a little while. Appreciate the stat guy for jumping on for a little while as well. We'll be back on Friday, 11 p.m. Eastern. Be the last episode of Gonzo and the Judge of 2022. Coming up this Friday before we bring in the new year. Please hit that subscribe button on YouTube at Gonzo Sports Room. Like and follow on Facebook and Twitch as well at Gonzo Sports Room. I'd greatly appreciate it. Also do the same for the All Sports All Plays Network as well. Got a lot of great guys over there that are putting in work. You can also find me 1 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, ASAP Afternoon Blitz. I have Easy Money, a sports betting show Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern. Got Gonzo and the Judge Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 11 p.m. Eastern. Horseshoe Talk Mondays and Fridays, 6 p.m. Eastern. And then whatever other shows I end up on in between all those. But I try to stay busy that way anyway. But like I said, appreciate everybody watching. We'll be back on Friday. Thought tonight was a great show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And talk to you later, Judge.
All right. Talk to you later, Gonzo. Take care, man.